With Daytona in the books, it's time to turn our attention to Atlanta. Brian and I are here to take a early look at the betting board. Caesars has odds, Superbook has odds. We'll recap all that was Daytona 500 as well, the hits, the misses, everything in between on today's Angle of Pursuit podcast.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Brian Twining, Daytona is come and gone. We had the Monday finish of what was like for 95% of the way, like a un-Daytona-like finish. And then Todd Fuhrman sends out the tweet. This has been a really calm Daytona race. And I think within about 45 seconds of
I was just going to say, within the minute, it all went to shit.
Carnage ensued. Cars were flipping around. The best cars, of course, ended up not finishing the race. Ryan Blaney was pretty damn good. Logano, arguably the best car most of the day.
Brad Keselowski was right up there.
Brad Keselowski was right there. And then Ross at the end had a really good chance with a really good car, and then more carnage. So, so Daytona is come and gone. And then, of course, all the carnage ends up leading with unofficial scoring completely effing me when official scoring comes out. So we'll recap DraftKings, betting, underdog, all the good stuff, give you all our thoughts. We were 100% transparent around here. We'll give you the hits, we'll give you the misses, all that good stuff. Want to shout out everybody who checked out both the shows this week. Want to shout out everybody who shared it around. It really does do a lot to help us. We had really, really good engagement. So if you are enjoying it, make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you're clicking the like button. Make sure you're leaving us comments. Let us know who you think's going to win. Let us know your favorite DraftKings plays. Let us know all that good stuff. Also, two things you need to be doing. Free Substack newsletter, aoppodcast.substack.com. Drop it in the description. Brian and I are dropping 3 DraftKings picks each, as well as our 2 favorite bets, as well as the final betting card. So you can see all of our favorite bets, all where we're at, all that good stuff. Brian, I was ready to do backflips when I thought I saw unofficial results, and then
well, you did. The thing is, you had gotten those, like they were in there, and then the official
completely jinxed it. So
came in.
So make sure you do that. We'll leave those in the description. We'll share them on socials, but check it out. Subscribe if you enjoyed the content. I know a lot more people looked at it than actually subscribed. Obviously, subscription is not warranted, not needed, but it is appreciated. And then there's also a way to, throw us a little change if you are so inclined. Don't feel like you need to. Like I said, the Substack letter is completely free. But if we're helping you win bets, if we're helping you crush on DraftKings and you want to throw a few bucks our way,
or if we're just extremely entertaining and you guys enjoy watching us go
we are definitely more on the side of wagertainment. So don't feel like we're geniuses that have it all figured out. We think we got it. We put some stuff together and we see what we can do. All right, Brian, I'll share my screen. We'll run through some stuff and then we can talk about William Byron winning the Daytona 500. How do you feel about the way the race ended? Like, do you feel like...
Look, last year we had multiple occurrences where there were arguments on both sides of the table in situations like this. It was either the yellow was thrown too fast or the yellow wasn't thrown quick enough. Yeah. And I understand them trying to make the claim that they thought maybe that Austin Cindric and Chastain were going to stay down and they were going to be able to continue the race. But even so, if the entire pack had passed them, their cars were still going to come back up onto the track and they were going to have to throw the yellow regardless. So they were just asking for more carnage to ensue. After that, they should have just thrown the damn yellow. As soon as somebody got spun out right there, throw the yellow, let us get an actual green flag finish rather than just going back to some picture that is zoomed out like 100x. And I don't know where the hell they're getting the idea that that's a good enough image
So
to tell us that William Byron was in front of Alex Bowman at the time of the caution.
Yeah, well, yeah, especially as someone holding a Bowman ticket, I really wish they had graded it a little bit differently. But I definitely see like basically the spin started to happen with Byron so close to the line, and I think because it was Monday and because of all the weather delays and because they wanted teams to get out of there, I think they were ready because I think they thought, oh, we do another, caution here. We run another 2 laps. Maybe we
Probably
keep
going
it
to be another
going
caution.
and then we run it, and then all of a sudden we're here for another 45 an hour and we're doing this over and over and over again. We have 3 cars
Yeah.
on the track. So I get where they're at. Obviously, like I said, I would, had Bowman been that much farther, I would have been pretty dang stoked. I was really hoping I could get at least a chance at overtime. But we've seen Byron when overtime happens. He does find a way to. He's the closer that Kyle Larson is not, and that's
As our friend
impressive.
Chris Wormy would say, William Byron is not a bed shitter. And if we're talking
No
about
shitting
Kyle
on any
Larson,
beds
I mean,
for old Kyle, for old William Byron.
real quick before we go off on this, crazy Stan tangent on William Byron, Kyle Larson was really good this race as well. Like, I mean, he wasn't up there for the win, but people give him a lot of crap for his super speedway racing. Like, he avoided the wrecks. He was in it at the end, and he got out of there, with a decent finish to where I can only imagine like him now, if he sustains himself at these super speedway races and doesn't wreck out, what type of points advantage is he going to get throughout the entire year when he's winning the 1.5s, the short tracks, and then refinding that kind of skill on the road courses we saw back in 2021?
Yeah, I'm definitely like I'm pumping the brakes on my fade Kyle Larson at super speedways mentality. Did it work out? Yeah, but like barely and kind of luckily. So, that there's bets you win that you should win. There's bets you win that you should not win, and vice versa. Bets you lose that maybe you should have won, and bets you win that maybe you probably shouldn't have. So it's something interesting to think about. So let's talk DraftKings and let's talk about kind of overall. I think we got to a lot of the right pieces at points. But I think there was also times where like we couldn't cobble it all together. So Kyle Busch was a great play. Your David Reagan call was a great call. He was awesome, and
He was incredible.
I had more exposure to him. He was really, really good. Your Herbst call was actually really good too.
Real quick on Riley Herbst though. I don't know. I watched every single lap of that race outside of when I was making my Italian Greyhound real quick. I think I might have missed like a half a lap. How the hell did he wind up going a lap down? He was with the pack the entire race. He was riding in the back late, but I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he had like a pit penalty or something, but yeah, I think we actually got screwed on that because he could have gotten a lot more points than what he wound up with.
So, and then over here, my guy Chase Briscoe. We'll talk about him when we talk betting. But yeah, no, he had really strong performance. Dinger was my call of the week. Obviously loved him. This actually was a pretty decent lineup. If this was Kyle Busch instead of Ryan Blaney, I would feel much better, and I would have cashed for sure.
Well, I think that's important that we talk about that because we talked about how it was going to be risky to get both of them because you knew their ownership percentages were going to be huge, and we picked the wrong one.
Yeah. Did do a Larson Byron just because when you talk so much shit about 2 drivers all week and how they're going to do awful, you have to get some exposure. Obviously, Bubba was great. This was the one lineup that we did get to work. Your Alfredo call was solid.
Fast pasta, baby.
Yeah, pasta was solid. Truex was fine. So overall, pretty solid there. We did do the Blaney Bush thing here, and Dinger. So I'm like, oh, here we go, 225 because Stenhouse and Austin Dillon.
Stenhouse was good too, though.
That could have been Briscoe and Reagan, and all of a sudden I'm feeling great. But this is a puzzle that we'll have to figure out and kind of put together. Speaking of puzzles that we put together, underdog, so close. If Byron obviously wins, so
horseshoes and hand grenades, my friend.
But Truex Gibbs worse, Bell better, Kyle Larson worse. Close to hitting. This one had the Byron and the Blaney. I wish it was flip-flopped and it would have cashed. Chastain, Logano worse. Keselowski, of course, gets caught up in the wreck. So, once again, especially at a super speedway, it's you're putting so many pieces together that weird stuff happens. Even if you're 95% right, if it's not right at the end, it doesn't matter.
Okay, so just a quick admission to everybody. Prior to the race, I went and I placed like a bunch of $1 and $2 bets on outrights, just for fun on my offshore account. I
William Byron is
literally
not one of
had
them.
the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th place finishers on outrights, but the only one I didn't was freaking William Byron. So that just goes to show you the luck that is needed at Daytona.
Let's talk bets. So I was feeling much better about my card, as I mentioned, with the unofficial results, as the unofficial results had AJ Allmendinger in the top 5. Of course, he gets, what does he get, Brian? He gets 6. He gets 6. And then I had the aforementioned Chase Briscoe as my top Ford. 22-1, wrote it up for the newsletter. He's there. And of course, what happens on the official results? He's the second Ford behind his teammate Noah Gragson.
What I didn't understand about that though is that Briscoe had finished unofficially, I believe it was like 6th, and then officially he went all the way down to like 9th or 10th. So I don't know what the hell.
I don't either.
I guess it's that stupid super zoomed out blimp picture that they're using. So,
but and the thing is, I understand using like the freeze frame thing to pick a winner, but when you have carnage happening, how do you figure out who's 7th and who's 10th? And like, this is costing people money. This is costing drivers points. Like this DraftKings points. Like there's a lot going into it.
Well, I think a good example of that too actually wound up happening in the Xfinity race that occurred after the Daytona 500 when everybody started wrecking behind Austin Hill and Cole Custer. Custer slowed down, in my opinion. It looked like he let off the gas while Austin Hill was still flooring it to the finish, which is why we didn't get them racing to the end, because even the drivers are probably like, are they going to throw a caution or are they not? They probably should throw a caution because everybody's behind us flipping.
And I think that's part, we didn't even mention when we were talking about why they didn't throw that caution at the end. They still have the Xfinity race to run. And so,
yeah, good point.
And if they, if they throw a caution there, like if it's close enough, I think they're going to lean the side on getting the race done. And unfortunately, that dems the brakes. I did have Alex Bowman as my top 5. I almost wrote him up as a top 3, and I'm like, him and Hod. So it is what it is. But honestly, I'm in the green after Daytona, so I legitimately cannot complain. You had Haley over Burton, which ended up working. I was a little hem and hawing, but I wanted some both exposure to both. So I didn't play DraftKings. So for DraftKings, so I didn't take the other side. Corey LaJoie position under 20.5, which I believe was one of your 2 write-ups.
So my write-up was actually the LaJoie to finish on the lead lap.
Okay, so that one cashed.
LaJoie that was probably my most, if there is such a thing at Daytona, that was probably my favorite bet, just seeing how consistent he had been. And, he literally plays it safe. And then you could tell that he was backing off of people while in the draft, up in the front. He wasn't in there bumping and grinding to try to continue to move forward. He was just happy riding, knowing that chaos was going to ensue.
Yep. So you hit a few. I hit my one, but it was a big one. Obviously, we tried to keep our betting card in terms of units under control. So I'm up to units on the week. Brian is barely down 1 unit, but considering it was Daytona and all the nonsense that race could have ended 100 different ways, with us making a ton of money, losing a ton of money, ending up somewhere in the middle is probably okay.
Well, and then just referencing last year's Daytona 500, We improved dramatically. So I'm
Well,
happy. I'll take
that's
it.
it really is the lottery ticket 500. There
Yep.
is a wide range of outcomes. And I think last year was the worst of it. This year was somewhere in the middle. That means
Yeah.
next year we need to go hard because we're going to get all the breaks.
Next year, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to calculate arbitrage and try to get a bet on like 25 to 30 guys to win the race to where
Well,
I
yeah,
can
I
at
mean
least.
Ryan Stevens from Win the Race was he's on the NASCAR betting preview show, and he was like, "Yeah, I got like 20% of the field. Anybody of these guys win, I win money. And then if they don't, then I don't lose that much." And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's kind of a genius way to play it,
I was just
especially
going
at
to
a
say, I
track with
feel
so
like
much
there's a way to
variance.
do that because you can eliminate like the Anthony Alfredos and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like, I think you're safe eliminating them from potential of winning because honestly, I don't think there's any way any of the other guys that are at like mid tier or upper echelon teams would allow that person to win the race.
Yeah, and then even they're not going to push it if they get close. They're just going to get their
Yeah.
points, unless it's like a dinger type where he's running
Oh
that
yeah,
race
he
the full
would.
season.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's flip the page. Let's talk Atlanta and let's talk odds. We'll go over and check out Caesars. We'll talk numbers. If you have a number or a driver that you love this week, please let us know in the comments. If you find a great bet that you like, obviously, as we discuss this, there's not every book hasn't posted numbers. So if you find a bet you love, let us know. We're down to discuss it both in the comments as well as you can follow us on Twitter. And Notorious KRO at Brian_Twining. Make sure you are following the newsletter. It really does do a lot to help us. It's completely free. And Brian, we will talk Grid Rivals. We have a Grid Rivals league that is free to play. The winner gets $100 gift card. And to Fanatics, we can also talk I know the 47 brand dropped a bunch of NASCAR stuff. So if you'd rather
Yep.
have that, we can definitely make that happen. I know Home Field has some really cool stuff coming this weekend, so I'm very excited about that. So let us know. We can definitely make it happen. But don't feel like you missed out because you missed out on Daytona. If you join, you will get the lowest score of like where we're at. So obviously we've only one race. Nobody's running away with it. So you
Yep.
can still jump in. You still have a very good chance of winning. And I'll link that down in the description as well as share it around on socials. Completely free. It's kind of a salary cap game where you sign drivers
So
for
certain contract durations too.
yeah, so for a couple, like you can get like Brian has Justin Haley for a couple races. So if you know this is a good stretch for Chris Buescher, for Denny Hamlin, for whoever, get in, get a good price because if they win one, then their cost goes up the next week, and you get a nice value. So,
Yep.
like I said, that will be in the description. If you have questions or need some clarification on that, please let us know. We can definitely assist in any way possible. That being said, let's talk Atlanta. Let's talk favorites and kind of the front runners. Once again, Denny is your favorite, followed by Ryan Blaney. Makes too much sense. Both of these guys are incredible. While Atlanta's not a traditional super speedway, the improvements and the changes
Yeah.
have definitely made it lean a lot more super speedway. Behind them, Joey Logano, the aforementioned Kyle Larson, who was pretty incredible at Daytona until the end of the race. Keselowski, last year's winner, William Byron, Chase Elliott, rounds out everybody from 12 to 1 or shorter. Brian Twining, who is jumping out to you? I know we traditionally don't love the top of the board at tracks where maybe a little more nonsense can happen, but I feel like Atlanta's a good mix of a lot of like stuff could happen, things could get crazy, but it's definitely a lot more predictable, especially coming off of the 500. So, who's jumping out to you? Who's the most interesting?
It's gonna sound gross, but Ace, average ass Chase Elliott, he's really good here. I know he was good in Atlanta prior to the new configuration, but he's just as good, if not better, on the new one. I mean, he's got to win 2 top 10s. He's only ran 3 of them because he was hurt for this first one last year during the spring because of his snowboarding accident prior to Auto Club. Yeah, I think Elliott 12 to 1. Now, Am I going to get down on that at, again, a pseudo super speedway? Probably not. It's so hard to bet these guys at these short numbers on this track type. Even with knowing that Atlanta last year raced much cleaner than it did the first year in the new configuration, which was an absolute shit show. Guys seemingly figured it out last year. They kind of figured they had to just kind of ride along, which is what we saw a lot of at Daytona. So I think you're going to see a little bit more of that. I think they'll get a little bit more aggressive because the track is a little bit shorter. But yeah, I'm not betting anybody in single digits. Denny Hamlin's definitely not even a consideration at that number. And then even the 10-1 guys, no way.
Yeah, I feel like they clumped a lot of these guys together. I think we'll get some natural like movement. Some guys will get a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Maybe we get a bit of value. Byron, I'm not throwing him out as a potential back-to-back winner. Like we've seen him win back-to-back races. This is a great track for him. I think your Chase Elliott call is a really good call. I like that. And I also like Ryan Blaney. I know he's short. It's 10-1. It's harder to get to, but he's been so good here. Only one win, which was back in 2021, but he is a guy who's going to get you in contention. He's going to give you a shot. And Brian, we talked a little bit about your golf article that you're working on for BetSperts and how Tony Finau is kind of gross this week.
Yep.
Pairing a Finau with a Blaney or a Byron or a Chase Elliott could make it a little more palatable. Maybe you have a fun ticket to sweat on Sunday. Obviously, with golf and NASCAR, there's a lot that happens over the course of the weekend that could make that either amazing or not something you're actually sweating. But that is one way to look at it. I think if you want some value potentially added to one of these guys at kind of a shorter price. Let's talk the next range where we have Kyle Busch starting at 14, Christopher Bell at 14, Martin Truex at 14. We'll go to Bubba, who is at 18 before we go into kind of guys at 20-1 and longer. KFB looked good, had a legit chance to win that race at Daytona. We'll see about RCR. I feel like last year he was really strong to begin, then kind of faded, and then was kind of there. But obviously, didn't have the juice come down the stretch in the playoffs. Christopher Bell, a guy we like, back-to-back Final Four appearances. Truex, better at super speedways last year, was solid again Daytona, could be interesting. And then Bubba at 18, I feel like is always a little bit better than the number we get. I don't know if it's just the market doesn't want to bet him or what the deal is, but I guess of these four, anyone jumping out to you as a potential dive-in opportunity? And if so, who would it be?
To me, I think it's clear Christopher Bell would be the only guy that I would consider here. Look, I wear the 2311 hat. I love me some Bubba Wallace, but he hasn't been good at New Atlanta. So I don't know what to make of that. Christopher Bell, on the other hand, he's been running pretty good at New Atlanta. He looked great at Daytona. He was right up front for the majority of the day. When winning time came about, he was there. He had a great finish. But honestly, again, I'm not really interested in any of these guys up at this part of the board. I think when we get to the next group, I think that's where the bets really start to offer some potential or some value.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Just looking at Truex at Atlanta, he was definitely much better at the old configuration. Hasn't been quite as solid, but he ended up finishing 19th in this race last year, but was started 29th, was 10th after stage 1, was 7th after stage 2, was fine. He might be a good target for kind of a head-to-head or maybe a top 5 bet. I don't know that I'm ready to get to him in the outright market, but yeah, I think especially at this point, I want to dive in and get some value, and then obviously as the week rolls along, we'll get some better numbers and we'll start to get a little more aggressive. So let's start with the 20-1 range. We have Tyler Reddick at 20. We have Chris Buescher at 20. We have Ross Chastain at 20. We have Eric Jones at 22. Eric Jones at 22. Do we really see enough from Legacy to put Eric Jones at 22? Ty Gibbs at 25. Austin Cindric. like I know I'm not expecting him to compete for a cup championship, but the fact that he was at least competitive at Daytona was nice for a guy that looked like he completely lost it last year. I'm probably going to go back to the showman Alex Bowman, which 28 I'm fine with. That's what he was last week. I guess before we talk anything longer than that, who's jumping out to you from the 20s?
Look, this guy will be on my card. If you follow me on Twitter, thank you. If you're not, what are you doing? Um, Watermelon Man, Ross Chastain, 20-1. It's going to be my first ad, my first dart throw this week. Trackhouse has been incredible at the New Atlanta, posting top fives. Both of their drivers, Daniel Suarez and Ross Chastain, have 2 top fives. They're 2 of only 4 drivers to have done that since we've gone to the new configuration. Chastain looked great at Daytona. You can tell he's actually improving as a super speedway driver, and I think his comment post race or after getting out of the whatever injury tent when he said, "Look, last year it was with 9 laps to go. This year it was with 1 lap to go. I saw a gap for a win and I went for it." And I think Chastain, with the aggressive nature that he kind of has in him, if he's there at the end, he's the guy that's going to go take a win from somebody. And yeah, that may result wrecking like we saw at the 500. But in other instances, like we've seen in Talladega before, he's going to win. So I think this is where I'm starting my betting card, this 20-1 range, and I'm starting with the Watermelon Man, Ross Chastain.
Yeah, and I think the aggressiveness he showed at Daytona is great to see. Obviously, getting the win at Phoenix, I think, was really good for his mentality as he kind of ended last year on kind of a rough patch.
Yeah.
A lot of his confidence or like he really is trying to find the good line between being aggressive and overdriving. And I think he's found it, at least for now. We'll see if he can keep it going. And we'll see if he can take advantage, because I think 20-1 is a good number on a guy who I think can do really well. I'm not betting Eric Jones. I like Chastain if I'm going up, and I like Gibbs if I'm going down. As I mentioned, I did add Alex Bowman, 28. I'm expecting a better season. You can see up here, Hendrick Garage,
Yep.
Hendrick Garage. I'm
Yeah,
getting
and
more than
I think you're
double the
getting a
number.
major discount on Bowman because of the lack of success that he had last year. Although him and Chase Elliott were like the same guy coming down the stretch, and they're
But
in
Chase
same
Elliott is
equipment.
everyone's favorite driver, so both
Yeah,
know they're going to take money either way.
yeah.
Yeah, Bowman was straight up ass last year, but he is great. Let's talk 30s. McDowell, Daniel Suarez. You talked Trackhouse. You said how good
Mi
they were here.
amigo. Yeah,
Uh,
look, I don't hate that play either. I mean, honestly, I feel like he's more of a potential position favorite, but he's finished 6th or better in 3 of the 4 Atlanta races in the new configuration. Like,
yeah,
there's no fluke there. He clearly likes this track. There's just something about it. He looked great at the 500 too. I mean, look, I mentioned William Byron's past successes at Daytona, or lack thereof, prior to this last weekend, not having a single finish of a 21st or better. But a lot of that had to do with the type of aggressiveness that he had been racing with at these tracks. Kudos to the Action Network guys, Rotodoc and I forget one of his partners. They were mentioning that he most of the time was super aggressive at the end of races, which wound up resulting in him wrecking. So,
yeah,
finishing results are not indicative of how well somebody drives at these tracks. Same
no.
thing for Suarez. He was great at the 500. He wound up getting caught up in the calamity that was the 9 to go wreck. So,
Yep. But yeah, no, the fact that he was there, he was in contention, was really good to see, and I think 35-1 is a really nice number. It's I'm actually going to add that. I'm going to add it for a small. I'm going to add it for a small bite. Like you mentioned, it might be. He's probably a guy you want to get a piece of. Top 3, top 5, maybe a head to head.
yeah.
But at 35-1, I'm going to grab a little bit and see if the line moves. And maybe, like, I could see him being a guy that ends up kind of in the high 20s, like 28, or maybe 30. And so if I'm getting a little bit of value on a guy that I think legitimately can win, I'm going to grab some.
Yeah, and just to go back there, it's Jordan Maccabee, his co-host on their show, Stacking Denny's.
Yep. Let's talk the rest of the kind of these guys. Chase Briscoe, 50-1. I like him at Dega. I
Oh.
like him at Daytona. I'm getting 50 this week instead of like 20 something.
Do you trust him to not wreck though? I mean, he's wrecked himself when leading
Chase
races.
Briscoe, like how much can we really trust him? I'm optimistic that SHR figured a little bit out. I'm optimistic that he can be good on short flat and on super speedways. And I know it's not a true super speedway, but that 50-1 number is pretty nice. And $10 on it wins you 500. That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Gregson's right there at 60-1. Another guy. Almirola's car always did well at super speedways. It's kind of interesting. John Hunter, Ryan Priest, Josh Berry. Like at this point, we're throwing darts. But are you throwing darts at any of these guys?
I mean, apparently somebody likes John Hunter Nemechek. I forget what book it was when he opened. He was like the favorite, probably because they messed up. They mixed Xfinity and Cup Series. But yeah, I don't think there's anybody really in this range. I like Corey LaJoie, but I don't know if I could get there on an outright just because, how aggressive is he actually going to be? Like, we know that they have a little more funding, but at the end of the day, they're still one of the middle tier or the lower end of the middle tier teams. And they got to try to get out of there with as little amount of damage as possible.
Okay, so as we sit here right now, I have two outrights. I have Alex Bowman 28-1 for 3/4 of a unit, and then I'm putting half a unit on Suarez at 35. Brian has Chastain at 20 and Suarez at 35 for a half a unit and a quarter of a unit. Brian is all aboard the Team Trackhouse this week. Brian and Mr. Worldwide are going to be sitting trackside having a good time. Let's talk finishing position. No top 10s yet. We'll obviously get to those as they come out. We can look at top 5s. I think there is going to be a little more opportunity this week, at least hopefully, to get in on some kind of like top 5s, top 10s, that kind of stuff. I guess, of the names that we talked about as kind of a little bit longer shots, guys that we want to target as finishing position. Suarez is 4-1 to top 5. I don't know that that's quite good enough, but it is kind of interesting. Bowman at plus 320, I think is fine. Corey LaJoie is 5-1. Don't hate that. It's maybe a little aggressive.
I was just gonna say I'd probably rather go Suarez at 4 than LaJoie at 5.
Or what about
That's
Gregson
not big enough.
at 6?
Yeah, I don't think those are big enough gaps.
Yeah.
Especially too, I think you really have to go back and look at the fact that last year's Atlanta races, there was only a handful of cars that weren't in the mix late or weren't on the lead lap. Like I think the spring race finished like 28 guys on the lead lap, and then the fall race, there was only 3 or 4 dudes that actually wrecked out. So it's going to be a lot more cars that are in contention here, a lot more cars up front pushing towards the end. So it's going to be more difficult for the back markers to make a splash or the mid markers to make a splash this weekend than it was at Daytona.
Yeah, and unfortunately, not running the full schedule looks like it's going to impact us this week, as AJ Allmendinger won't be here. He would have definitely been on my betting card, but that's okay. Just looking back, yeah. It's interesting. Ryan Priest was in the top 10 after stage 2. Justin Haley was 7th and ended up finishing 8th, which good for Justin Haley. Kind of interesting to see how people ran last year. Yeah, Cindric was really good here last year too. Maybe he's somebody.
It's Penske. I swear it's the Penske garage. Cindric is good on super speedways. People forget, like, this guy won a Daytona 500. That is no fluke. When you win a 500, you definitely did something right. And so I think people are just thinking of him as the shit show that was everything post him winning the 500 a year and everything but that race. So, I don't think people give credit where credit is due for the 2-car. Sure.
Well, and you remember the last thing you see, right? And he was trash down the last. Um, but in July, he finished 12th after starting 10th, was 4th after stage 2. In March, he was 2nd after stage 1. He was 1st after stage 2. He's clearly got a 3rd in July of 2022.
I was just gonna say, and he's led laps in each of the last 3 races at the New Atlanta. So it's not like he's not used to being up front. I mean, he was competing for the win at the 500 just yesterday.
Yeah. What's his number to top 5? Plus 320?
Like, I don't hate that because he's Penske.
Yep. It's kind of like, it's basically the Penske version of Alex Bowman. I will take a little piece at plus 320. And we can look at other numbers as they go live, and maybe we can get better numbers. I think our friends over at BetRivers tend to have a little juicier top 5, top 10 type numbers, but I will 3.5, almost 3.5 to 1. That's kind of fun.
It is a shame though that like DK doesn't have any odds out yet.
Yeah. Not surprising. I mean, they're not FanDuel, but they're definitely a little bit slower.
We don't even need to get into.
Yeah, FanDuel will have odds up probably after the race, so you can look at what they would have been. Assuming you can actually log into your account. That's a whole nother story.
Oh, I know.
Let's talk top Chevy. We have some interesting names. Obviously, the Hendrick guys are in here. Chase Elliott, William Byron, Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, your boy Ross, 7.5 to 1. I don't hate that. Bowman, 12 to 1. Suarez, 14 to 1. Some interesting names. I'm actually look at when we talk top Fords at finding a way to go there instead of going top 5. That might be a little more fun.
Yeah, I think I was just gonna say though, like as much as I think there's potential with Suarez, because this race is less likely to be chaotic, I think you're probably looking at the top of the board here just for like a safety net. And so I would probably cut it off at Chastain, honestly.
Yeah, and I think honestly with the Chevys and the Fords, the Toyotas might have a little more flexibility.
Yeah.
Knowing the names that are going to be contending, if you're going to bet somebody to be the top Chevy or the top Ford, it might be better just to go to the outright market or maybe top 3 if the number is better, just because the odds of them being the top in their manufacturer and not winning the race is probably pretty low. But definitely something. And this is kind of the mental gymnastics you want to play each week as you kind of figure out how you want to attack the betting board.
Yeah, I do think that there's some potential value there in going with like Elliott or Byron as the top Chevy, even at 4 to 1. Because I mean, I think they're clearly better than Kyle Larson at super speedway races. Like Larson is improving, but I think Byron and Elliott probably both better. I mean, Byron's won here twice, and Elliott won here once, and he's been really good every other time that we've come. So I think they're definitely a level ahead of Larson, and I think they should probably be more like that 3 to 1 number. So I think there's some value potentially there.
And if you feel really strongly about the Fords, Blaney and Logano, if you feel really strongly about Hamlin, but you think the Hendrick guys will be competitive, this could be a good way to get a piece of them without actually having to win the race. So obviously you're getting a third of the odds, but you're giving yourself a lot more opportunity for a chance. Maybe Byron gets 4th, but he's the top Chevy, and all of a sudden you're cashing your ticket. So something to think about. I think Ross is in play. I think Bowman's in play. I think beyond there, I'm probably out. Like I'd rather just bet him to win the race.
Yeah, because the odds don't match up.
Yeah. And like we said, if they're gonna be that competitive, or maybe you take your unit and do 40% on the outright and 60% on the top, whatever, and maybe you hit both. Top Toyota.
I think it's also Toyota hasn't won at Atlanta since 2013. So
interesting.
It's been a while.
Hamlin, big favorite as top Toyota, plus 260. Truex 420, Christopher Bell 420, Bubba Wallace 550, Tyler Reddick, Eric Jones, which it's weird to see Eric Jones here now that he's switched into the Toyota camp. Ty Gibbs and John Hunter. Gibbs at 8. Bell at 4 plus 420, I think is going to go on the card as the top Toyota because we
Now,
talked about liking him.
Oh yeah, Christopher Bell. When you go to shout out to our buddy Ryan over at iFantasy Race. If you're not checking out his website, you're doing yourself a disfavor, and maybe even consider subscribing to his stuff because his data is incredible. But one of his free things he has is next gen speed rankings tool, which is absolutely incredible. The best in that metric for the last 4 races at the New Atlanta, Christopher Bell.
Yep, and you don't have to worry about him beating the Hendrick guys. You don't have to worry about him beating the Fords. You just have to have him beat Hamlin and Truex, and you're getting over 4-1 to do that. So I'm
one caveat.
Break it down.
The second best average finish on the New Atlanta, Eric Jones, 9.5.
Interesting, but that was in a different vehicle, so we'll see.
That's true.
We'll see.
But his worst finish here is 14th.
It's pretty good.
That's pretty damn good.
Pretty good. Let's look at top Fords. Blaney 3-1, Logano 3-1.
I think this is the market where you attack Austin Cindric, to be honest with you, because you avoid the risk of him trying to get a top 5. He could finish 7th, 8th.
Well, and you're getting, instead of plus 320, you're getting over 9-1. You're getting 9.5-1.
And it's essentially the same bet, in my opinion, because Ford has been really strong here. Penske is always going to be really good here. So if he does cash this, in all likelihood, he's probably either winning the race or finishing inside the top 5.
Yep. I like that. Briscoe at 18. I don't hate that either. I did that song and dance last week.
What is with your Briscoe love, man?
I don't know, man. We all have our things. It's weird. It's nonsensical, but it works. And
Briscoe is terrifying until he actually wins a race. I am completely out on him right now.
Remember we were in on him like 2 years ago, though? That was fun.
No, I've completely erased that from my memory, so I don't have to think about that ever again.
Certainly a decision to make. Let's see here. Anything else that we should look at? Championship odds are basically the same. Nothing has really changed. Byron's maybe a little bit shorter, but he was really high up on the odds.
Okay. Perfect storm.
Okay.
Kyle Larson wrecks out here at Atlanta.
Yep.
And then has the Michael McDowell electrical issue in Las Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah, we need because I think next week, even if he doesn't run well here, he's like
he's still going to go off as the favorite, and probably
if he has a bad Vegas race, then maybe we're looking at 7 or 8. And we buy in and hope we have a nice ticket.
Exactly.
At the end of the year. Let's look if there's any matchups this week. At least at this point, there might not be, but we will definitely.
They haven't posted.
Let's go. Sweet. Let's go. Chastain versus Buescher. Chastain getting a little bit of juice. Hamlin versus Logano. Byron versus Larson. Kyle Busch versus Truex. Christopher Bell is a big favorite over Ryan Blaney, which is pretty wild. Any of these jumping out to you?
Not with the.
Yeah, nothing.
Not
so
with the
compelling that I need
to
fire at it. Look at us showing restraint, Brian. I know it's only Tuesday, and we'll probably add 100 bets between now and then. Let's head over to the Superbook and see if they have any better matchups. Bell at plus 105 versus Denny is kind of interesting.
Oh, I'm adding that. You're going to give me plus money on the best guy in the garage right now?
Yep. And I'm on that too, which means he's going to have a horrible race. So,
gosh, we're dead. It's dead in the water before we even add it to the betting card. Oh man.
Blaney versus Hamlin. You can get Blaney at plus money too.
Yeah, it could be fade Denny week.
Jesus. Keselowski versus Blaney.
Okay. Oh yeah, no. Yeah, I don't really. I don't understand all the negative juice on these guys. Like Kyle Busch versus Logano. Like, why is Logano minus 125 there? I don't care how good they've been.
Early money, I guess.
They do have a lot of offerings. I like this a lot.
Yeah, this is nice.
Oh. Chastain over Larson, baby. It's going. Plus money. Let's do it.
Chastain over Truex at plus money.
No.
Cindric versus Bowman, my two guys.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
See, sometimes too, you gotta shop the markets to see if you could get any like arbitrage on those, because sometimes two books will post the same matchup and have one or the other flip-flopped.
Just seeing if there's any crazy numbers on group matchups. I don't usually love them because so much stuff could happen, but yeah. So okie doke. I think that is good for today. Should we recap the card, give the people our favorite bet, at least as of right now, and get out of here, Brian Twining?
Let's do it.
All right, let me. I can just do this. Cool. So I have Alex Bowman outright 28-1. I have Suarez outright 35-1. I will price these as more books release them and update accordingly. Austin Cindric top Ford 950. I like that quite a bit as a way to get some Cindric pop without going to like top 3 or top 5. Christopher Bell top Toyota plus 420. I love that. And Christopher Bell over Denny Hamlin. Obviously, if I like him as top Toyota, I like him as the in that matchup at plus money. So that is where my card sits. Brian has 4 bets: Chastain and Suarez outrights. He has Bell over Hamlin and Chastain over Larson. Brian, what is your favorite bet as we sit here Tuesday evening talking NASCAR?
Oh, I'm ready to have some watermelon, man. I'm ready for all this damn rainy weather to get the hell out of Southern California and summer to get here so the watermelon gets ripe. But I think we're getting some early season pickings this weekend.
I like it. I like where your head's at. I think I will find a way to get some Chastain on my card. I'm not really sure exactly how. Maybe matchups, maybe manufacturer. I'm not really sure, but I like where your head's at. I'm going to go Bell top Toyota. I like that. I like the number that you're getting. I think the juice is correct. And it's like a nice little value so that it's a fun bet. As I mentioned, I will link in the comments below, as well as you can find it on Twitter. The Substack, completely free. Check it out. We'll add our final bets. We'll add more bets throughout the week. That will drop Sunday morning in your email if you are subscribed. Otherwise, you have to go get it. So benefit of getting subscribed, completely free in your email inbox on Sunday morning to get your final bets in before the race. Obviously, when we have Saturday races, that will be in there Saturday. It's called the Green White Checker. It's the final thing before the race starts, why we called it that. We also have a link to our GridRivals down below. We will have it on Twitter. Come play, free to join, $100 gift card to the winner. So make sure you come get in, join us. We'll have a good
and it
time.
Potentially helps us out too. So
yeah, you want to support the show without giving us a single dollar, without doing anything, join the GridRivals, join the Substack. It's all free. It does a lot for us. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all that. Share the show around. If you have socials, you know people that know NASCAR, love betting. Like you have friends that bet other stuff and they don't bet NASCAR.
yes.
Get them on, because if they like betting golf, if they like betting, 20-1, 15-1, 10-1, like parlays, they can bet one driver, and if they hit it, they're going to cash. And if they hit that one, they're going to be in like Flint. So make sure you do that. That's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. We'll be back to break down the entire DraftKings slate post practice and qualifying. We'll break down our favorite picks beyond there in the newsletter. enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk to you next time.